everybody. It is John Pollock and WH Park. It is what month are we into now? September edition of Post ProRes. WH, how are you?
I'm okay, John. I might have a bit of a frog in my throat, so if I mute myself to kind of clear it, I apologize to you and the listeners. But overall, I'm doing pretty good, and I have to get this out of the way because I forget to do it every show, and that is if you need a cool T-shirt to wear, go get the Post ProRes T-shirt over at the Post Wrestling store. There
you go, store.postwrestling.com. You can get your own 2 versions of the Post ProRes T-shirt, and these are some kick-ass designs. I know we're somewhat biased, but these are great designs.
It's all Robert Pearson, but I gotta say, like, props to John Cena for wearing his on I think one of the watch-alongs, maybe for SummerSlam or something like that, over the past couple of weeks or so.
A great representative, John Cena, host of Shot in the Dark on the Up Next Patreon feed. So
that's right, a show I've invaded.
Yeah. WH always finds his way. I mean, he is the political navigator of all shows.
I am John Cena's retribution. He's gonna pop when he hears this, by the way. He's going to be like messaging me like, "Oh my God, you said my name." Yeah. Okay. There you go, John.
Is he in the private group?
He's not in the private group.
Oh, it's an exclusive group. Don't feel slighted, John. I'm not in any of these private groups either. So it's exclusive. It's exclusive.
I created it, but Brandon from New Jersey will veto certain names. I'll say, "Hey, how about this person?" No. Okay. I'm not saying John Cena was vetoed by Brandon from New Jersey. But I'm just saying it's usually not me who vetoes people's entry into the group. It's usually Brandon. I'm just going to put all the heat on him.
Man, guy judges with a swift shot of his chanclas.
That guy and his chanclas, I had an argument with him about, is chanclas like a Spanish thing, a Puerto Rican thing, or a Mexican thing as well? And he was like, we were just debating back and forth. We were trying to get Scrump to come in because Scrump's Mexican American, and I think he wisely just kept out of it. But we came to the conclusion that chanclas are used by both the people in the Puerto Rican culture and in the Mexican culture.
Okay, well there, it's settled. While we are promoting certain things going on with the site, we're going to get into our preview of the G1, but when it's G1 season, that means that we also have our G1 contest that is now live. Everyone can now go ahead and make their picks. postwrestling.com/G1. You can go to the website. There's a button right there that will take you to where you can insert all of your picks. The deadline is this Friday night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So right before, on the eve of the first card from the G1 that's coming up this Saturday. postwrestling.com/G1, free to enter, and let's see how wise you are. Who is going to be able to properly predict the trajectory of Yujiro? And if you listen to this podcast, WH, maybe he's going to be the GPS that can help you navigate through this year's G1 tournament.
Hopefully. I already did my pick'ems in that contest, John. So very simple. Whoever put that together, it's much simpler than last year's, and it looks great. It took me 4 minutes. I didn't give it much thought. It's like, this guy's going to win. This guy, I hate this guy. He's not winning anything.
So Yujiro, then, I'm sure, doing very well on your picks. How many points is this guy going to have at the end?
Maybe 3, 4, maybe 1 draw.
Look at the names. He's going to have to spoil someone's victory near the end. Maybe multiples that this guy is going to play a part in.
Why is he in the fucking he's in the A-block. Why is he there?
That is the biggest mystery of this entire, as I quoted already this week, Benno with the best line. Did they book the wrong Takahashi?
Yes, exactly. I mean, you couldn't just put fucking Sho Tanaka in there or Hiromu Takahashi. I don't know. Anyways.
Well, let's take a look at the G1. So the A-block, it's all built around Yujiro, but his supporting cast includes Will Ospreay, Jeff Cobb, Taichi, Tomohiro Ishii, Minoru Suzuki, Jay White, Shingo Takagi, Kazuchika Okada, and Kota Ibushi. Over on the B block, it is Tetsuya Naito, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Zack Sabre Jr., Evil, Kenta, Hiroki Goto, Sonata, Toru Yano, Juice Robinson, and Yoshihashi. And unlike previous years, we are not going to get a slew of undercard tags. It's the A-block performers stay on the A-block shows. However, the young lions that they're using, they're going to be using 3 young lions that will comprise all of the undercard matches. That being one undercard match we'll get each day with Yota Tsuji, Yuya Uemura, and Gabriel Kidd. So I like these. These are very easy, compact shows of 6 matches per day. I think the young lions, it's like a nice little, just something to whet your appetite at the start of each card that are always, fun matches. Maybe some people are going to be getting, a little kind of, tired of the same 3 guys by night number 18, but, some solid cards, especially when you look at this A block that, Yujiro aside, it's a pretty stacked one.
Oh yeah, I think it kind of blows B-block out of the water for me. I mean, I like B-block. Like, it's got Shingo, it's got Tanahashi. Juice is back. Naito's in there, Sonata. And like pretty much everyone except, Yano's the night off guy in there. And then you got, Evil, Shit,
Shingo is A-block.
Shingo's A-block. Okay, I screwed that up. But so, my notes are a little wonky here. But yeah, so then B-block's even more shit now compared to A-block. But I like the idea, like you said, of the young lions, John. But like, if you look at their schedule, they're wrestling every show.
Yep.
And there are shows where like they're moving from cities and then they're going back the other direction in Japan. And these guys probably aren't going to be on the bus. They're probably going to be, or they're either going to be on the crew bus and traveling with them, or they're going to have to taking like the bullet train to some of these cities. But they have to go to every show. And I think they're kind of be the workhorse MVPs of this entire tour.
Yeah. And to me, like, I thought the whole point of it was that the reason we're not doing these tags is to mix people in the locker rooms. But these 3 are going to be going back and forth between all of the shows. So I was expecting that maybe you'd have like 3 or 4 young lions dedicated to the A-block shows and then 2 or 3 on the B-block side, but it's a cycle of 3 that, yeah, as you said, will be on every show. They'll get the occasional day off to where they cycle in and out, but they're going to be working most of these shows. And by the end of this, yeah, you're going to see a lot of these 3.
Well, besides the matches, John, they got to do their regular young lion duties, like of being ring attendants.
Of course.
They got to help set up and tear down the rings. So I hope they get a nice little bonus at the end of this month.
So I guess the interesting news earlier this week was that a number of the foreign talent ended up getting in, and that included Will Ospreay, Jeff Cobb, Jay White, Kenta, and Juice Robinson. So I think, there's no debate that certainly bolsters the rosters for the G1. Were you surprised at all that they were able to pull this off in the end? Because we're going to look at some other tournaments where, foreigners, it's not just a matter of snapping your fingers and being able to get foreign talent into the country.
Well, apparently the whole, lessening of travel restrictions was in the works for kind of what we call essential workers in Japan. So a lot of companies have been lobbying the Japanese government to like we need to bring these workers from other countries who have work permits and might have been working here before the pandemic started, but they've been locked out because of travel restrictions. And that includes I think the Japanese basketball league had players come in, but only the players that had worked in Japan before. None of the newly contracted players, from what I understand, were allowed in. So I think, New Japan kind of were able to bring the foreigners in on this policy, but I think with the caveat that either they're only going to work this tour or they're just going to stay in Japan, and they're probably got their own temporary apartments if they didn't have apartments for obviously Saber has his apartment. I believe Juice has one, and Will Ospreay with B Priestley has one. So they're just probably moving back into those, but everyone else can get temporary, apartments rather than staying in hotels, because that would be more, cost, that'd be more cost effective. But I think that's the whole idea. I would be surprised if after the G1 that these guys are going to go back to America and then try to be flown back in. If I'm New Japan, I don't risk that. I just tell them, you want to come in, you have to stay until after, Wrestle Kingdom at the very earliest.
Which I would imagine the most difficult for that scenario would be Kenta. I mean, he's got his family back here.
He might have brought them over. I mean, who knows? They're all Japanese citizens, so they can easily just come in without, with just self-quarantine themselves. If I don't know, no offense, but if I'm Kenta and I have a choice to bring my family back to Japan with me or keep them in Florida, that's an easy choice. Come back to Japan.
Well, it's one option. I guess it depends on, his kids. Are they in school? Was he willing to uproot them and come to Japan? Certainly these events over the past couple of months, you may be reconsidering, whether you want to stay in the US or go back to Japan, at this point. And if that was an option for him that, hey, I have to come and I have to stay there, maybe he's making that decision. But yeah, it will be noteworthy to see who is, still around after this, G1, which, as we mentioned, it kicks off this weekend with shows in Osaka on Saturday and Sunday, and will run all the way through October 18th with the final 3 nights at Sumo Hall. Looking at this loaded A block, you're going to get some incredible combinations. Why don't we handicap the A block first, and where are you leaning towards here? Are you going with, the big two in Okada and Ibushi to be the favorites? And can you see anyone else emerging as a potential contender to at least win the A block, if not win it outright?
Ibushi is kind of my favorite to win everything and go into Wrestle Kingdom again and challenge Naito, who I assume will be the champion. So he's my overall winner, but Okada, you can't discount Okada because he hasn't been the champion for a year. I don't see him not being the champion for very much longer, if not at Wrestle Kingdom, getting the title back there, then maybe quickly after into 2021. But you can't discount Jay White. I think there's a lot of things that would have been done with Jay White this year if it weren't for the pandemic, and then he was stuck in the United States. But yeah, I'm going to go with my overall favorite is Kota Ibushi.
I just think that story from, winning last year and then failing at Wrestle Kingdom, that seems to be the redemption story that he would have going for him, that you could certainly see them riding through to next year, as we try and guess what Wrestle Kingdom will look like in January.
I do think, since he's now a contracted wrestler with New Japan, that they do have to pull the trigger with him and get him into that, rarefied club of being, an IWGP champion. If you're going to put Evil in there, you should put Ibushi in there as well.
Maybe that'll be one of his new finishers he introduces at the G1. Pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger. There you go.
On any particular pairings that you really are excited for in this A block, and what do you think about Minoru Suzuki being back this year? What he adds, because he's quietly had quite a year during this empty arena phase, or at least limited fans era.
I think his style for these kind of limited fans being allowed to attend, and even the empty arena shows, his style lends itself to having a compelling match. So I think it's great that he's back in. I think he's worked really hard during this time. And yeah, I'm excited to see how he does. I don't think he's going to point very high. I think these matches are going to be mainly to find potential challengers for his Never title. And I think you're going to get some really great bangers out of that. Anything with Ishii and a combination of Takagi versus any of these guys, including Yujiro, if anyone's going to drag a good match out of Yujiro, it's going to be Ishii or Shingo Takagi, and maybe Will Ospreay as well. But yeah, I think Kota Ibushi versus Shingo Takagi is probably my most anticipated match of the A block.
You being someone that is on top of the discussions online and out there, what have you seen as the reaction with Will Ospreay being back? And do you think that it's going to be people are going to be vocal in terms of his over the next month of his involvement here, or do you feel that there's many that are not looking at the story that came out with him back in June and applying it to the guy being back in the G1? Is it an issue for you at all?
it is to an extent. I think from his point of view, he should have, hired a PR firm and just had them coach him to do as genuine,
right,
an public apology as possible. I don't think it would have alleviated the vitriol against him completely, but I think it would have helped alleviate it to some extent. Here's the thing, John, New Japan, for good or bad, they don't care because he's not been charged with any crime. He, what he's accused of is using his power and influence in the British wrestling community to blacklist a female wrestler who accused his best friend of sexual assault, of rape. And that's, on the surface of that, that's disgusting. I'm not someone who agrees with that. On the other hand, people in the Brit Res community who are closer to this story than I am, I think the ones those voices that I respect, they all said, yeah, it's a unethical and it's a very bad look for him, but he didn't do anything to warrant him from being banned from wrestling in general. And that's the thing. He's never been charged with a crime. He didn't do anything to embarrass the company in Japan. So why people are in uproar? I understand why people are angry about it, but if you were expecting New Japan to do anything but bring him back, I'm sorry, that's really, kind of being delusional, for lack of a better word. In Japan, I don't think many people care. I think those fans who can follow English and are aware of this, aren't too happy about it. But for the most part, I'm going to say 75 to 80% of the Japanese fans aren't aware of it. And, they don't want to be aware of it. They only care what happens in Japan, I think. So, one of my Twitter friends who does a lot of Japanese to English translations, Karen Peterson, she put up this thread on Twitter about how some of the people who are very vehement against Ospreay are now starting to harass Japanese fans on Twitter and Instagram, about him and about speaking out in general. And I just feel if you want to vent your anger, and please do so, but do it towards New Japan. They have contact information where you can email them as fans and express any concerns you have. I think that's the kind of thing that you should be doing instead of going after Japanese fans for liking something that Will Ospreay posts either on Twitter or on Instagram.
Yeah, I think so. And that's where I think a lot of fans are left with what are you left to think about it? Because really, let's be honest, that story, pending any more that comes out, any other details that are revealed, what is known, is the one company, the IWL group, that did produce the emails from a third party that was initially asking for Pollyanna to be off the show, but not directly from Ospreay, who, for his part, had denied that part, and he was apologizing over the tweet he put out a number of years ago, at first dismissing her accusations and taking that back. So that's what's out there. And it's kind of left with the audience to sort and say, hey, am I comfortable with this? Do I understand what all of this is? And go from there, because it's not going to be the companies taking those measures. It's just for a story like that, they're not going to be stopping using him over that. So that's kind of where it's left. And I think with a lot of these stories that are out there, it's kind of left with, well, what's your comfort level? When someone shows back up on television, where is your comfort level? That's where I feel we're at with a lot of these performers, because it's not, hey, this happened and this is the punishment, and then you are brought back in. It's there aren't those kinds of measures that we've seen.
Yeah, I have a lot of problems with, certain wrestlers that wrestle for the WWE with AEW, and New Japan. It's not like Ospreay's the only one. There were the things that happened during, Elgin's time in New Japan, the controversies he's had, and, and some other people have been kind of, accused, not have a big spotlight in them, but, that currently work for the company. But it is what it is. I don't know what, I just do, my quote unquote job and talk about the matches. We can talk about the, surrounding situations to some degree, but at the end of the day, it's not really up to us. I think it's up to the fans. If you feel that strongly about it, please contact, New Japan or RevPro or whoever, and just express your concerns, like in a measured way, in calm, measured way, and go from there.
Looking ahead at the B-block side, so on Sunday show, we have Tetsuya Naito and Hiroshi Tanahashi reigniting that feud from back in 2017, where they had their series of matches, which actually coincided with all the shows that they did Wrestle Kingdom and Dominion underneath Omega and Okada. And some people forget Tanahashi. And I remember at Wrestle Kingdom watching that Naito Tanahashi match. I'm like, well, there you go. Nothing's topping that. And then Okada and Omega came out, and I don't know how that first match holds up in your memory, WH.
Of what, Tanahashi Naito or Omega Okada? I
guess either one.
I think I like Tanahashi Naito more, but I gotta say, like when Kenny became a heavyweight and entered his first G1, I was more into him as a wrestler then, because he shed the whole cleaner stuff that I was not a fan of, and then this is before he becomes a champion and he becomes a complete goofball. And so I like that part where he's chasing the title is like my favorite era of Kenny Omega as a wrestler and as a performer in New Japan. And then anything before that, I completely hate. Anything after that, I completely hate, as far as his character goes. But I'm going to say probably I like the Okada Omega match, because I just think it took wrestling to a different level in some ways, more than like Tanahashi and Naito is like, it's expected that they're going to have great chemistry with each other.
So this block, I think it's much more wide open. You can certainly look at Tanahashi, and do you ride out that story again? Or do you open things up to some of these others that are in here? And I look at Evil, and I'm not necessarily thinking Evil's going to win the B block, but I do feel this guy's going to like get out to that really hot start and go undefeated for a significant portion. I think he has to be booked very strong coming off that title loss, because I didn't think that title loss did him any favors, that title run to be exact. And this G1, like you can see, Evil is one of their chosen guys that I think he's going to have to be one of the main players in this block.
Well, his first three matches are against Zack Sabre Jr., Yoshihashi, and Toru Yano, and I can see him winning all three of those. He needs to. I don't think it hurts Zack to lose to Evil. But yeah, like Evil, like people say, oh, the booking of Evil hurt him. He had his too short a raid. But look, here's the thing. He had a chance to like just step up his game, but the booking does him no favors, having Dick Togo out there and him using his, bullshit interference with and using foreign objects all the time in his matches doesn't help. But he just wrestled very ploddingly, and like it was really boring to watch.
Oh yeah, this was not just on like New Japan messing with this guy. Like it was a combination. Like I'm with you. He would not have been my the guy I would have chosen for such a big step up, but I mean, they committed to him, and I don't see them just, dropping him because it didn't click immediately. I think they just double down and will go hard with him. But you're right. Like he, to me, did not demand that kind of attention for those that were critics of him winning the title to begin with.
And the fourth match he's going to have in the tournament is against Kenta. That's one I think can go either way.
Right.
So, but the first three, he should win.
Where are you looking at for this block?
That's a tough one, John. I mean, the big story would be for the finals. If I'm picking Ibushi to win the A block, then I think the person who should win the B block to complete their story is Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Should he lose this match to Naito on Sunday? If he's ultimately winning the B block.
Well, if he beats Naito, then they can set up a title match. Before.
Yeah, which I would say then you almost don't need to win the G1 at that point if he beats Naito this Sunday. Or you could do both. He beats Naito and wins the tournament, but it almost seems redundant to do both. But that's a pretty important match that they're putting in like the first night of the block.
But I don't see who else. Like, I mean, I didn't think Jay White was going to go all the way to the finals last year, and then that happened. But who else? I guess I don't see Evil going to the finals. Kenta maybe. Zack Sabre Jr. No. The only other possibility outside of Tanahashi to me is Sonata. And that's entirely possible. So it could be Sonata, but I would go with Tanahashi, and then he beats he goes to the B-block finals, and he could still have the match. He can continue that story. I don't know, John. I mean, I'm never good at picking these things, so I could be completely wrong.
The B-block's really hard. The B-block is very hard to me this year. I mean, Tanahashi's just kind of your go-to, but if you're not going Tanahashi and you're looking at other options, I do feel Sonata has the opportunity because I don't think people are looking at the B block and setting their expectation. Like there's going to be some good matches, maybe some very good matches, but I don't think anyone is putting this in the realm of the A block. And if a Sonata goes out there and just puts his like working shoes on and has some blowaway performances with these opponents, he could really put a big spotlight on himself, just in terms of not even winning the block, but being that guy that can kind of carry this block where Tanahashi and Naito are that much older. And, you're looking for who's going to be that guy that steps up. And I could see Sonata, like this is really put up or shut up time if you're a Sonata to have that solid start to finish, consistent performances. And who better to start off with than Toriano on Sunday?
That's right. They have an oddly good chemistry that produces amusing matches. I will say that about Sonata and Toriano.
So 19 shows. Wei and I are going to be doing shows after each one of these G1 cards. Maybe at some point we will contact Mr. WH Park to pop by. But those will be available for all members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. $6 a month. You get access to all of these bonus shows starting next Saturday. So
John, if people want to listen to those, I'm retiring the sandwich ratings, and I'm introducing. If I get on the show with you guys, I'm going to introduce the pasta ratings.
The pasta ratings. Oh my goodness. Well, you just guaranteed you have to come on now for at least one show with the pasta ratings.
And people sign up. I'm not revealing these pasta ratings on Twitter until after the whole G1 is finished. So if you want to hear about the pasta ratings, you have to hear in audio form on possibly at least one show that John and Wei are going to do reviewing the G1 Climax.
All right. We have a lot to discuss. So let us, let's stay in the topic of tournaments, because as we speak today, the Champion Carnival kicked off. It's a 10-man tournament, broken up into 2 blocks. And, we kicked things off earlier today, with 2 A block matches, 2 B block matches. We had, do you want to go over, the results? And did you see any of today's show?
I didn't catch them. I got the results, but so spoiler alert for everyone who hasn't seen this show. And if you don't want to be spoiled, please skip the next, 5 minutes or so. But the results were, my favorite wrestler in all Japan, Jiro Ikemen Kuroshio, taking on Jake Lee. Jake Lee thankfully defeated this jobber in 8 minutes and 34 seconds. Suwama took on the beefy Kuma Arashi, and he beat him in
4 minutes.
In less than 4 minutes. I was laughing when I saw that result. In B block, Shuji Ishikawa took on Yuma Aoyagi. Shuji won. He defeated Aoyagi in 8 minutes. And the main event was Kento Miyahara taking on Yoshitatsu. And I guess this is, maybe Yoshitatsu is the spoiler of this tournament. He defeats Kento in 21 minutes and 52 seconds. I don't know how excited I am to see 21 minutes of Yoshitatsu, John.
And he won with the Yoshitatsu pandemic.
Jesus Christ.
So that's, those are the, opening results. So, it's, your man Kuroshio in the A block with Zeus, Suwama, Jake Lee, and Kuma Arashi. And then the B block's got Shotaro Ashino, Yoshitatsu, Kento Miyahara, Shuji Ishikawa, and Yuma Aoyagi. Of course, Suwama in the A block is your Triple Crown champion. And, we're also going to talk about the N1 Victory Tournament that Noah is running. Do you think that it's a disadvantage to be running at the same time as the G1, or do you think that it's in a weird way piggybacking off of the G1 that somehow they'll get more attention, or is it just forcing people to pick what you're going to follow?
Well, I've said before, John, that a lot of people in Japan are either fans of one company or the other. You rarely get crossover fans, so I don't think it really matters that they're running concurrently. I think for people like us that it's a difficult thing to keep up with all these tournaments. So for the streaming, numbers, I think it's a bad idea. But for the live gate, I don't think it really matters because they're kind of running in different cities and the such. So it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. That's the thing is like, this is the only time they could have run these tournaments, I think, because that's why they're all doing it at this time is like in late August, September and October. So maybe the thing is like these venues are open to them and they feel the pandemic was under control enough in Japan to be able to travel a bit further out than they would normally. Like most of the time they're staying within Tokyo. But I mean, the thing is, New Japan is just like going all across Japan. Like that's the thing I'm concerned most about with the G1 is like how far and widespread they're traveling because they exponentially increase the risk of infection spreading to them and to their fans. So.
Yeah, we had 482 fans at today's All Japan show in Nagoya. So that is kind of where they're running in front of, and this will run through October the 5th, where they'll be at Korakuen Hall with the finals. What do you think is any way you're leaning in towards who comes out of this? We just did the Shotaro Ashino match because he would have been a candidate for me, but maybe they revisit that and do another match. But any other thoughts on potential winners?
I think A-block is Jake Lee's block. I think he's the one who has the most potential. Like, Suwama's already the champion. I don't think they're going to let Suwama run the table and become the G1, the champion Carnival champion, along with being the Triple Crown champion. Zeus.
And they're having a match on Tuesday.
Yeah. And Zeus is, Zeus is there now. I think he's slotted as a mid-card guy, tag team wrestler. Jiro, come on. Like, no, unless you're like really like fucking high or something like that. I don't know anyone's picking Jiro. Kumarashi, he's just an freelancer, like mid-card guy. So like to me, it's the opportunity to push Jake. Finally, maybe this is his chance to get over that hurdle and become a main event player. So I'm going to say Jake is the A-block winner. B-block is a little bit more tougher to decide because I do think you can use the Champion Carnival to reheat Shotaro Ashino. And he's someone I'm very, very high on. I think they're high on. And I think he's eventually going to have a run with the Triple Crown title. But you can't discount Kento Miyahara. Like he's like Okada. Like he hasn't been champion for a while. And I think that's been good for the company and it's been good for him. But I can't see him not being the champion for very much longer. So like it could be he's the B-block winner. He beats Jake. I wouldn't do that. I would have Jake win the whole thing. I would have him challenge Suwama. And then I would have him win the title from Suwama. And then he has a lengthy run, which builds towards a match towards Kento Miyahara. And then you have that kind of Kento, like Misawa Kawada dynamic between Miyahara and Jake Lee, kind of. And so like it has to be a point where Jake Lee has to have a chance to finally defeat Kento Miyahara in a Triple Crown match where he is defending the title is just as good as if he wins the title. So I think that's the direction I would go in, but I'm not a big fan of current All Japan booking, to be quite honest with you. I think they kind of like have messed up Ashino to some degree and Yuma Aoyagi as well. So we shall see where that goes, but Jake Lee's my pick overall, John.
Yeah, I could see that's a very compelling argument to do Lee and Miyahara in the finals. I like the idea too of if you were to go with Jake Lee and throw in like Aoyagi into the final, and it's almost like here are our next level of guys. Like you have your kind of big three in Suwama, Ishikawa, and Miyahara, and here are the two guys that are on the heels of those big three to graduate to that level as well. So I'm with you. I think Jake Lee is like as solid a pick to win this whole thing. So I fully expect Yoshitatsu to be the man we're talking about October 5th.
Exactly. Or fucking Jiro. Jesus Christ.
Well, there you go. It's a dream match scenario in the finals. Maybe those are the two that are on the cusp of stardom.
I mean, the thing is, you look at the last two cards, so September 21st and September 26th, it's like Jake Lee versus Kumarashi. Like that's just going to be his, getting points there. Suwama versus Zeus, but it's Kento versus Yuma Aoyagi. So, if Yuma is like, pointing high, this could be the match that decides whether he goes into the B-block final. So you could be right here, but the other match is Shotaro Ashino versus Shuji Ishikawa. So you have like a very interesting dynamic in the B-block. A-block, I think, is just, it's Jake, and then B-block is where it gets really interesting, especially on the 21st show. And then the 26th show is Zeus versus Jake Lee. So Zeus could spoil Jake. And then Miyahara versus Ishikawa. could go either way. And then Yoshitatsu versus Shotaro Ashino. I expect Ashino to possibly win that. So it's interesting. The last two cards are very, very interesting for B-block.
Then you got a big gap. You got 9 days before the finals for the winners to recover from this tour and then have a big match at Korakuen.
Yeah, I think that's good. Let him rest. It's going to be a tough tour.
Well, that will be the slogan of Kazushi Sakuraba because he's part of this Noah N1 Victory Tournament. This starts next Saturday, September the 18th. Or Friday the 18th. It runs through October the 11th. We have the A-block. Go Shiozaki, your GHC champion. Kaito Kiyomiya, who's coming off a decisive loss to the Great Muda in 2020. Masa Kitamiya, Manabu Soya, Masaki Mochizuki, and Sakuraba. I'm hoping Sakuraba lasts this tour. This is going to be quite the toll this man's going to put on his body.
Well, he's one half of the GHC Tag Team Champions, John.
I know.
With Takashi Sugiura. So he didn't look that great in that match, I felt. In fact, I thought that match was kind of boring, but it went long. Can I just say, recent Noah is just dry as a bone. I am not enjoying watching Noah shows these days. Like, the matches themselves could be good, but the atmosphere is just so boring, so dull. It's a slog to go watch through Noah. So I have to say, I'm going to watch as much of the N1 as I can, but I'm not really looking forward to it, John.
Just rounding out here, the B block has Keno, Marufuji, Sugiura, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Shuhei Taniguchi, and Yoshiki Inamura. This is one that to me, it's going to be the tournament that is going to be the hardest to follow. Like, I want to catch as much of the Carnival as I can. But with G1 overlapping with this, I can't say I'll be catching a whole ton of Noah unless there's like some blowaway match that you recommend.
I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, I look at these blocks, John, and like, there's nothing like, oh, A block is so much better than B block. I think they're pretty even, and they're not that exciting to me. Like, and also like recent booking, especially of like Katsuhiko Nakajima, has been really perplexing. So he joined Congo, led by Keno, who's the guy who beat him by knocking him out and taking his national title. He turned on his longtime, partner, Go Shizaki. They dissolved Axis, which like boggles my mind because it's like a cottage industry within Noah itself, John. Like there's autograph signings, their photo books do very well for Noah. So it's like, well, we just throw that money into the fire to have Nakajima become a heel and join Congo with all these people that hate him. And Congo is a faction full of losers. They always lose, John. So I don't know why the fuck you're going to put Nakajima in this faction when they just create his own new one or something like that. But that's Nosawa Rangai, who we're going to get to a little bit later in other news. But yeah, I'll follow it as closely as I can, but I got to say that I'm probably going to fall asleep during most of these matches.
Well, I know what you're anticipating, and that is the formation and launch of Great.
That's right. Or, people might be confused because it's spelled with an L. Isn't it Gleat? No, it's Great. And, so this is like Le Dead Entertainment that used to be the parent company of Pro Wrestling Noah before they sold them to Cyber Agent. So I just get with the spelling, John. Great is spelled with an L because it's playing on that whole mixing of R's and L's in the Japanese language. So if you have an R in the word, you're going to probably pronounce it L if you're Japanese, and vice versa with the L sound. So it's also L stands for Le Dead. So if you see it and you say Gleat, it's not Gleat. It's Great. It's a little confusing. I don't know if that was the best choice for a name.
My rule is that if you need multiple sentences to explain the name of your promotion, might not be the best name for a promotion. But I digress.
They have 4 board members, and they are Kiyoshi Tamura, Nosawa Rangai, I don't know why, Kaz Hayashi, and Riki Joshi, which is kind of a motley crew of people from, pro wrestling in Japan.
Riki Joshi, just anything that's a startup. This man finds his way to that company to get in on the ground floor of something.
Yeah, and like Nosawa is like kind of this cockroach that just won't die in Japanese wrestling. I'm hoping something's going to happen to like just get him out of like any wrestling that I want to watch, but there you go. So Tamura is the executive director of this company. Rangai is the chief strategy officer, which seems like the worst idea to start, do with a startup.
What a strategy! We're coming off a pandemic. Let's start off a live event business.
I know, so dumb. Hayashi is the chief technical officer. I don't know what that means, and Choshu is an observer. So I guess he's become the Dave Meltzer of Japan.
Yes. Well, maybe he could have got some advice about this group. I don't mean to downplay this, but it just seems like this is, I mean, come on. How much benefit of the doubt do you get for a startup company at this particular time period of all time? Like in the best of times, I would be looking at this like this is going to be a long shot to be a successful company. But now on the surface, this one has me very puzzled.
It comes across more like kind of a sub-brand of Noah. And we're going to talk about their first called Great Version 0. That's going to happen on October 15th in Korakuen Hall. So that card is Kazuhashi versus Nosawa Rangai. Jesus Christ. Kazuki Okubo and Takanori Ito, who's one of their new signees. He used to be in Wrestle 1. They're going to take on Masakatsu Funaki and Minoru Tanaka, which is a hell of a team there. There's a Joshi match. Shuri is going to take on Yu. Daisuke Sakamoto, Jun Akiyama, and Shuhei Taniguchi are going to take on Kazuyuki Fujita, Kendo Kashin, and Takashi Sugiura, which just sounds like a big train wreck, but I feel like I'm compelled to going to go watch that. Maybe they're going to have a staring contest between Akiyama and Fujita for a whole hour before they have the actual match, John. And then the main event is Keno taking on another one of their signees, Soma Watanabe, who used to be Pegasauro Luminar in Wrestle 1. So they're kind of another company that's kind of picking up the bones of the now defunct Wrestle 1 roster. So it looks interesting. A lot of these things are going to have like a UWF feel. That's what they're saying. We'll see.
I like that it's five. I like that it's 5 matches. But then again, circling back to our chief strategy officer, is the best day to launch this the day of the G1 finals? No.
There's no great day to launch this, John. I mean, it's going to fail. I mean, it's a monthly show. I think it's a monthly show. They're going to have one card in a small venue. Okay.
That's fine.
Who's going? But these small venues, John, they pack them in. It's disgusting. Like these small indie shows. And I look at the shows and it's like, there's no social distancing. There's no ventilation. It's probably in a fucking basement. No vaccine, no WH. And I think that's true for a lot of other wrestling fans. No vaccine, no me to go to these, especially these shows that have, like you're just in like some small building with no ventilation.
Well, we will see if they are great or if they are average or if they exist a year from now. We will find out. How about Assemble?
Okay, so Assemble is kind of like this Joshi wrestling supergroup. So on August 27th, legendary Joshi wrestler Akira Hakotu announced that Women's Pro Wrestling Assemble would be created for a number of promotions to work together and help one another out during this, pandemic. Because I think a lot of these companies have been suffering some, economic loss during, the shutdown and stuff like that. So the promotions involved, these are really interesting names involved in this group, John. It's Stardom, Ice Ribbon, Pure J, Oz Academy, Sendai Girls, Marvelous, Seed Ring, Pro Wrestling Wave, and Hearts, which is a new Joshi group starring Yumiko Hara, another legendary Joshi wrestler. The big thing that for me was like the involvement of Stardom, because usually they're kind of an isolationist group, and they're backed by, of course, Bushiroad, but they've got heat with Ice Ribbon over like Julia jumping ship from Ice Ribbon to Stardom and how that was done. So there's heat there. There's heat with Seed Ring because of Seed Ring is run by Arsen Nakajima, who used to be one of the founders of Stardom, but she left after the Yoshiko incidents, and Yoshiko works for Seed Ring. So there's always been kind of like this simmering feud between them and Rossy Ogawa and Stardom as a whole. So it's interesting that they're putting these kind of differences aside to come together. So the idea is that they're going to put joint shows together. There's not going to be intermingling of the promotions. So each promotion will offer a match of their roster fighting each other. So you're not going to see Stardom versus Seed Ring. You're not going to see Wave versus Sendai Girls or anything like that. And they're going to have a show October 1st in Tokyo's Ueno Park. And Wave, Ice Ribbon, and Stardom aren't participating on this show. Pure J, they're offering the match Leon and Raideen Hagane versus Manami Katsu and Mari Manji. Marvelous is offering Takumi Iroha, their big star, and Rin Katakura and Maria versus Mio Momono, Mikoto Shindo, and Mei Hoshizuki. Sendai Girls will see Meiko Satomura and Dash Chizako and Yurika Oka taking on the team of Chihiro Hashimoto, Manami, and Natsuho Kaneko, and Seadring, Yoshiko, and Honori Hana versus Arisa Nakajima and Riko Kaiju. Oz Academy, Mayumi Ozaki and Sari Ano taking on Sonoko Kato and Akino. And there's a freelancers match that they haven't announced, but I assume it'll be a freelance wrestler by the name of Asuka, not to be confused with WWE's Asuka, but who's a kind of a big name in the freelancer world of Joshi wrestling here in Japan. So I expect it to be a match involving her.
Well, that takes us over to Stardom, who, I mean, they've had a lot of issues over the past month when it comes to COVID-19, and they had to cancel both those back-to-back Yokohama shows, and have, it really put a stop to their 5-star Grand Prix that they have now restarted, and they're actually doing 2 shows today in Fukuoka. They were doing an afternoon show and an evening show, and man, feeling like these having like the schedule that even the Young Lions won't have to have during the G1. Some of these having to work double duty.
Well, I mean, they tend to usually have like double shot shows on the same day in like some of the cities farther away from Tokyo. So it's not something that they're not used to. It's very common to see that on the Stardom tour schedule. So it's not that big of a deal. They have to kind of double up on the missed matches that they had because of the cancellations of the Yokohama shows. So in that regard, yeah, they're working. Some of the people on the roster are working a little bit harder than others.
Yeah, but I mean, it really does show you like the preventive measures that they've put in, like just the concern of anyone being diagnosed. That, I mean, they canceled shows, they canceled multiple shows. I mean, it was none of this just trying to get around because we have a tournament to book. I think that kind of tells you what was probably a Bushi Road call. And we look at the G1, like it should not be out of the realm of possibility that if there's an issue, we could see a show or a series of shows fall apart if there's any kind of threat. I don't think it's going to be a case of a company just, we're just going to hope for the best and we'll take this person off the card. And no, they'll stop the whole show, I think.
Well, I mean, fortunately, they only have 2 more shows left tomorrow on the 13th in Fukuoka. So they're staying in the same city. And then the finals will be on the 19th at Korakuen Hall. So, they just have to get through these next 2 shows. And I'm sure they've been told, please do not go out drinking, just go home after the shows and just, or just stay in a bubble with each other is probably the directive they've been given from Bushi Road. Like, and that's the thing is like, they have to like take these preventive measures because they're under the same umbrella that New Japan is. And if, Bushi Road is going to treat New Japan differently than Stardom, it doesn't look good. And especially in terms of protocol for the pandemic.
In terms of the Grand Prix, how much of it have you gotten to follow?
Not much. I've seen just in whole the first night, which was really great. I thought the Julia Mayu Itani match there was just fantastic. But
very good match.
I've been hearing like a lot of good things. Like if you, let me just go through the standings. So currently, as of today's results, Mayu Itani is at 4 points. Julia is at 6. Tom Nakano is at 6. Konami is at 6. So there's kind of a 3-way race for second place there. Starlight Kid, 2 points. Saya Kamitani, who's one of the rookies, who's getting a push in Queen's Quest. She's at 3 points. Death Yone-sama, 0. But, she's a comedy wrestler. I don't expect much from her. But I think the big surprise in Red Star's block is Himeka, who's member of Donna Del Mundo, who's kind of a new signee. She's at 9 points, John. Like, this is a huge push for her.
Yeah, I mean, they're putting a lot behind her in this tournament for sure with this group that they have really like Donna Del Mundo has now kind of emerged as like the key group that they're building things around with Julia at the helm.
Yeah, I think I get the feeling like Himeka and like Tam Nakano are kind of going to be pushed to fill the void left by and the tragic death of Hana Kimura, but also like the retirement of Arisa Hoshiki. So, to me, like, I think it seems clear that, Himeka is going to be the one who's going to win the Red Stars block and go into the finals. In Blue Stars block, we have Momo Watanabe at 6 points. Utami Hayashishida, she's leading the block with 8 points. Junko Kiona is at 6. Azumi is at 4. Natsuko Tora is at 4. Saya Ida is 0. Shuri Kondo is 4. And Maika is also at 4. So here, like, you're seeing what I expected is the push of Utami Hayashishida. And then I can see Momo possibly catching up to her, but I think the finals is likely to be Utami Hayashishida versus Himeka. So kind of a battle of the power wrestlers of Stardom.
Also, on some of these cards, in the non-tournament matches, this is where Riho has been working as well while she's stuck in Japan during this whole period.
Yeah, so she's working usually there, or she's working in her home promotion of Gato Move. But I don't know if they're doing too many shows with Gato Move recently, just because like they're also in this kind of small space, and they can't really bring too many people in there as well. But they have been running shows here and there. So like for her, it's good to just keep wrestling with Stardom, and like she's also someone I think if they can. They will try to sign her at some point, but like I expect like Bushiroad to just make these big moves. Like they're just want Stardom to become a big thing. I think when the pandemic is over, John, like you're going to see a huge push. Like maybe that's where our favorite pirate princess is going to show up in the near future.
Could be possible. Circling back to New Japan, after Rusev, Miro debuted in AEW, it was Fightful that reported that in his deal, it includes the ability to do New Japan dates. And I find that really interesting that he might be one that you would categorize as someone that maybe they can't get into the country now, but down the road, that option's there. Interesting to see how he would figure into New Japan and where this non-WWE run is going to go for the former Rusev.
Is he going to wear his fucking pajamas? His Gucci pajamas on his Gucci New Japan pajamas?
I don't know. We'll find out. Is he maybe over here he's the best man? Maybe he wants to come over and be the greatest man if he hooks up with Riki Choshu.
Sure. I don't know, John. All I see from that is if he comes in, I'm sure he'll do a completely different gimmick. If like how Moxley's kind of different in New Japan versus how he is in AEW. If Rusev, Miro, whatever you want to call, he wants to call himself, wants to come over. Sure. I was always very high on him in the WWE. I thought he was one of the most underutilized guys in that company, and I think he would fit really well in Japan. I'd rather see him in All Japan. I think his style would lend itself more there. But it also goes to this point, John, like New Japan is too reliant on foreigners. I really believe this. Like look at all the other companies. They really haven't been affected too much with not being able to book foreigners. Like whether it's Noah, All Japan, Big Japan, or Dragon Gate, they're all fine. It's New Japan that's had like the loss of quality because they rely too much on foreign talent that can't come to the country if there's travel restrictions, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's weather related, John. Like I really think they need to get away from this and try to develop more homegrown talent or people who are going to stay in Japan, not fly back and forth. I think that's kind of the way they have to go in the future. But, here's my thing, John. Like, I don't understand why Tony Khan lets these people have these clauses. If all he's going to do later on at a press conference is complain, oh, yeah, Rusev and Jon Moxley were on that New Japan show, but when are we going to see Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tomohiro Ishii on an AEW show? And then Tony's just going to be like, well, they won't let us have any of those guys because they're mean to me. So, and then look at complete fool. So I like Tony Khan overall, but when he does these things where he complains about New Japan not sharing talent with him because he lets them go over there, well, that's not their fault. That's your fault, Tony.
Well, I think part of it is trying to throw that out there that, hey, we are willing to work with them, but it's not being reciprocated, believing that public pressure is going to affect New Japan that I don't feel it will. I think New Japan, it's present a case where it makes sense to them. And you could certainly lay out an argument where under normal circumstances, a relationship could benefit both sides. But, to your point about the foreigners, I think that certainly no one could have predicted this year where they wouldn't have access to all these foreigners for the past couple of months. And you couple that with the fact that Naito's a year older. You're looking at some of your talent. Like, to me, Okada, I don't know. He just, to me, has not gotten out of the blocks during this whole pandemic period. To me, he's been, whether it's being lost in this whole King of Pro Wrestling crown deal, it's just, to me, Okada has just felt like off with the lack of crowds as well. Tanahashi's a year older as well. And when it comes to building your new talent, the guy they chose in Evil hasn't really been a home run yet. And then, your other talent you're building is, Master Wato. So I don't know if that investment has really paid off yet.
That's probably never going to pay off. Cause if you're going to actually push this guy, John, why not have him and Taguchi win the IWGP Junior Tag titles? You know what I mean?
I think you said the key word, never, because the 6-man tag titles are about his ceiling with this gimmick.
That's true. It's depressing to see. I've gotten past the anger stage, John, and I come to the acceptance and depression part of Master Wato.
Well, getting away from Master Wato, this is a big G1 in that regard, that a month from now, I hope that there's several who have big tournaments that are coming out of this that are that next level of guys. And you can always go to the tried and true ones of your Tanahashis, Okadas, Ibushis, but it's also about who are that next core. Like, we talk about All Japan, they've got like their big three, but in Ishikawa and Suwama, like, these are not young guys. Miyahara, yes, you can build everything around Miyahara for the next decade, but it's getting those Aoyagis and Jake Lees, up to that same level and creating guys and not just relying on your chosen few, because it's going to come a point, and I think we're seeing it with Naito. I think this is going to be a very tough G1 for Naito physically, that we've seen, that just all this wear and tear, it does catch up to you, and you've got to adapt like a Tanahashi has. And if you don't adapt, it becomes very pronounced.
I don't know why they didn't try to go after some of these Wrestle One guys. I don't know why they didn't try to get Shotaro Shino into the company. He would fit in perfectly. I'm glad he went to All Japan personally, but to me, not getting him or the recently signed to All Japan Koji Doi, who's got great size, or Takanori Ito, who you could develop really well into a major talent, I think. Why aren't you, I think, depending on how the pandemic goes, I don't think we're going to be in this forever. I truly don't. But at some point, New Japan's going to have to think about, we have to develop our young lions faster and get them to that next level quicker. So, they have Uemura, they have Tsuji, they can bring back the Great Okarn, hopefully under a different gimmick. Do something with Wato, change him back to more something, being his real self. But they might have to start thinking about, talent rating, pulling a WWE and just start looking at other companies saying, we want this guy from Big Japan. He's perfect for us. We want this guy from 01. We want this guy from Noah. And they have the resources to do it. Your contract's up. We're going to give you this much money. Oh, yeah. Company loyalty does go very far in Japan, John. But at the end of the day, money talks and bullshit walks.
Exclamation point from WH Park. Final topic here is Dragon Gate show that they have next month. It's Masato Yoshino's 20th anniversary of wrestling. He's not having a card to celebrate any marriage. It's his marriage to pro wrestling, and it's going to be headlined by a 6-way steel cage match that has quite the stakes attached to it. We have Big R Shimizu, BB Hulk.
Sorry, John. Sorry. That his 20th anniversary show is on the 19th, and the Dangerous Gate show is on the 21st. So the main event of his anniversary show is an 8-man tag. It's the Red Faction, Real Extreme Diffusion, John. I still don't know what that means. Big R Shimizu, BB Hulk, Eita, who's the current Open the Dream Gate champion, and Kaito Ishida. I think he's the current Brave Gate champion. They're taking on Dragon Kid, Naruki Doi, Ultimo Dragon, and of course Masato Yoshino, who represent the Toryumon generation. That's his anniversary match. But the next day, September 21st at the Oda City General Gymnasium, where we were for the Liger retirement show, John.
Great venue.
Dragon Gate will have Dangerous Gate, topped off by one of the craziest stipulated steel cage matches in the history of wrestling.
Yes, this is the six-way that you can take it away here with all that these competitors have to put on the line for the prestige of winning the steel cage.
Yeah. First, I just want to go through the undercard really quickly because I do think this overall card is just really loaded. So there's an Open the Brave Gate Championship match. Champion Kaito Ishida will take on Yosuke Santa Maria. There's a tag match, Gamma, Ho-Ho Lun, Kagatora, and Yasushi Kanda versus Keisuke Okuda. Problem Dragon, Punch Tomonaga, and UT. Not the University of Toronto. Just that's his initials. Don Fuji, Genki Horiguchi, Ryo Saito taking on Masaki Mochizuki, Shuji Kondo, and Ultimo Dragon. I kind of am very intrigued for that. That's a really good match for old, long-time Toriyama and Dragon Gate fans. KZ will take on Naruki Doi. There's an Open the Triangle Championship match. Ben K, Dragon Dia, Strong Machine J, who's the son of Super Strong Machine, who just retired last year. They're the champions. They're taking on the red team of Diamante, Kazuma Sakamoto, and Takashi Yoshida, the former Cyber Kong. Open the Twin Gate Championship, Jason Lee and Kota Minoura, who are the champions, take on Dragon Kid and Susumu Yokozuka, which should be a great match. And of course, the Steel Cage six-way, Shimizu, BB Hulk, Eita, Kai, Masato Yoshino, and Yamato. So I'm going to go over the rules, John. So the six competitors will enter in order based on numbers that were drawn on the August 12th show. We'll go in that. We'll talk about the order of entry. 1 and 2 will start the match. Number 3 will enter after 5 minutes. Number 4 enters after 4 minutes. And then 5 and 6 enter after 3 minutes, respectively. There are escape rules. You can climb the cage. You have to grab a flag. There are 5 flags in total. There will be 1 flag added as each competitor enters the cage. So they're not
Christ.
there. Yeah, I know. There's a risk of having a small number of flags available as the flags are in play from the start of the match. So the order of entry.
This is crazy. My God. Why is wrestling so complicated at times? Why do we have flags? Why do we have flags?
This is a Dragon Gate staple. This is like they do this every year. Every year they do this fucking cage match. So the order of entry is Big R, Kai, Yoshino, Hulk, Yamato, and Eita, who, as like I said, is the Dream Gate champion. So each wrestler has stipulations for if they lose, John. So I'm going to go in order. So Kai, if he loses, he has to leave Dragon Gate forever. Or consequently, if he is the first to leave the cage, then he has to join Red. And he's like on the babyface team, so he doesn't want to join Red. So those are his stipulations. Eita, if he loses, he has to leave Red. He has to join the Dragon Gate Generation unit. If he's not the first to escape, he has to defend his title against any member of the Dragon Gate Generation. If he is the first to escape, there's no penalty. So that's his motivation to try to get out of there as quickly as possible. Big R, if he loses, he has 3 stipulations, John. He has to leave Red, he has to get a crew cut, and he has to return to his real name of Ryotsu Shimizu. But the most important stipulation is not here, John. He has to get rid of those stupid fucking pants. So I'm really disappointed in his stipulations.
No, he wants to repeat and have worst gear of 2020 from WH Park. So I don't know if that is an incentive to get rid of the pants. The award-winning pants. Not a good award, but award-winning nonetheless.
This is true. It's a good point. For Yoshino, if he loses, this is great, Jan. He has to retire immediatry.
Immediately. Not tomorrow. Immediately.
He has to shave his head, and he has to have his retirement match against Naruki Doi, his long-term rival and tag team partner, immediately following the cage match. So I'm thinking Yoshino's going to lose this entire match. Yamato, if he loses, oh my God, this actually.
I like that the head shaving is like the bridge between the retirement match and this cage match. You got to shave your head in between as well. Not at the end. That's not the peak of this stipulation. It's just to get you ready for the match.
Exactly. So, for BB Hulk, if he loses, he has to go back to his real name of Terumasa Ishihara.
Oh my God.
He has to start his career from zero, so he has to become a young boy again, which I'm sure he would gladly love to do since his body's all broken up. And he has to join Mochizuki Jojo as a trainee. So that would mean like Masaki Mochizuki would just kick the shit out of him in like opening matches and the such. And Yamato actually has really good stipulations as well. If he loses, he has to do the opening talk segment with Mr. Kikuchi, who I think is the ring announcer. He has to wear plain white trunks, like just a young lion or something like that, a young guy in wrestling.
I'm reading the rest of this.
He has to use a bathrobe for his entrance gear instead of his regular, entrance robe. And the most important thing for him, he has to straighten his hair.
Has that ever been done? A straighten your hair match? That is that's the new level.
Listen, John, you've seen Yamato's hair. Has these beautiful curls in it.
It's wonderful.
And so like for him to straighten it out, I'm sure is like the most frightening thing. Like he wears white trunks anyways. It's not that big of a deal. And maybe he's going to save money on like not having to clear his entrance robe by just using a bathrobe. But it's got to be straightening his hair. That's going to be the thing that breaks him if he loses this match. So man, I guess you're interested
when Kenny Omega hears about this stipulation, I mean, that could be the big blow off match with him and Hangman. It's like loser gives up, Hangman has to give up alcohol. Kenny has to straighten his hair.
The Young Bucks have to get rid of all their tassels.
Yes. And wrestle in bathrobes.
That's right.
Okay.
I can see you doing that.
I do not follow Dragon Gate, with any kind of consistency. I promise you I'm going to watch this match because you have totally sold me on this in the last 5 minutes. There's no way I can't watch this. This sounds phenomenal. And I've got the cheat sheet here from WH, which I think everyone needs to be able to follow what's going on in this match, from all the flags to multiple stipulations attached. I need to see this all come together.
You know who's going to love this match if he watches it? It's Wei.
Wei, this could be... I mean, his matches of the year so far, the candidates, this could be it with the Firefly Funhouse, the Goshiozaki Fujita match that I'm totally in lockstep with him, or the Eyeball match.
Yeah. I mean, like if if Yamato has to straighten his hair, that might be it. That might be the thing that puts it over for Wei, and he's going to write a 700-word essay on postwrestling.com for it.
Is this going to be like back when, you'd have to do a head shaving gimmick where like the female audience members are going to be crying as he straightens his hair?
That might happen. I think his curly locks are a big appeal for him for the Dragon Gate female fans.
Man. Well, that is not going to be topped by anything else over this next month. It's going to be a very, very busy one. Do you think that you're going to be following along with all of the G1? Is that going to be your primary viewing over the next month?
No, the thing I'm most excited about, John, is All Japan, because I am a big All Japan fan. So the Carnival is the thing that I have the most emotional investment in, the most like kind of, my heart investment is in All Japan, in the Champion Carnival. My head investment is in the G1. I'm excited to see what happens with the 5-star Grand Prix. It's wrapping up soon. So, and I'm really excited about like some of the pushes, some of the talents getting there, but the N1 is probably the lowest, on my totem pole of interest. So, but yeah, I will watch all the G1 matches. I don't think I'm going to watch the Young Lion matches after I think 2 of them. It's going to be like, okay, I don't need to see these matches and just go to the tournament matches. And I love this shortened format. I hope they go through this, go to this in the future, because I don't need all these undercard tag matches in the future.
How about the fall presentation for the G1? Because it's very likely that this will be the time of the year they run this next year as well with the Olympics. Yeah,
I think it's better. Like this summer, this August, John, it was so hot and humid. I avoided going out like until nighttime. It was that uncomfortable. Like I only went out if I had to. I can't imagine being in Tokyo. Like regardless of the pandemic, John, just the temperature alone, like it would have made being in Tokyo just that much more unbearable than previous years. And I've been in Tokyo for the G1 finals, and I don't know, like I'm just tired of the summer here in general. But I think it's better. I think it's much more comfortable by the time the G1 wraps up. It should be a lot cooler in Japan. I think it's going to be better to like kind of keep doors open and windows open so you get better ventilation in some of these buildings. So we'll see what happens with that. like Sumo Hall, I don't know. Like, you can open a lot of the doors and windows and just get that fresh air kind of blowing in. It mixed in with the air conditioners and that don't actually work in there. So that's a good thing. I would like to see like it maybe shift to the fall. I think you have that, you close the gap between the winner of the G1 challenging for the IWGP title in January. Like that's a positive of that. But, New Japan is very, ingrained with their traditions. That's why, Wrestle Kingdom is always January 4th. They'll never move that date. And I think the G1's going to revert back to August, like when there's no more pandemic and there's no more Olympics to contend with.
Yeah, I think you run it where you can do the most, like sell the most tickets. And if the summer and fall are negligible in terms of that difference, I think there's a way better argument to do it now in the fall. For that reason, it bridges that gap. A beneficiary of it to me makes that power struggle card feel way more important because that's your big card to set up everything for Wrestle Kingdom, and you're coming off the high of the G1 a month prior. And then you do the tag tournament in December, which for the rest of time is going to be a tournament that few care about. So, you can keep that tradition going.
Well, one note about the timing of like it being in August is that G1 usually, the G1 finals usually coincide with the traditional week-long Oppon holiday in Japan. So you can draw more people to come to Japan from across within the country, to come to Tokyo to see the finals. And then that's when a lot of other promotions piggyback along on the G1 finals to hold like big cards. It's very much similar to what happens during Wrestle Kingdom week. You see all these promotions piggyback off of that. But the benefit of going in the fall is that that's low season. So Oppon is high season for traveling. It's one of the most expensive times to travel in Japan, whether you're in Japan itself or you're coming from other countries. If you move it to September, October, it's a lot cheaper to travel to for those dates just in Tokyo. But it's also going to be cheaper for you. If you want to ever come for the G1, you come during the fall. It's going to be way cheaper than coming in August.
All right, everybody, we're going to sign off. WH and I will be back probably late October. We'll probably reconvene right after the G1. So that's when you can look out for the next post ProRes. But I'm sure during these 19 G1 shows, I hope you can pop on for at least one of them at some point so we can do a checkup on the G1 and just to chat with WH Park. The people can't go that long without you, and they don't have to because as well, you've got your thriving series, The Long and Winding Royal Road, that has a monthly stop here at Post Wrestling.
Yeah, we just dropped an episode last week with JP Hulan talking about the legendary Misawa Jumbo Tsuruta match that, that propelled Misawa to that ace level that he would eventually reach. And I guess I'll give a quick preview of the upcoming episode. Episode 4 is a special profile episode, John. It's a biography episode on Mitsuhara Misawa. I'm joined by Pro Wrestling Noah and Mitsuhara Misawa expert Hisami, who does a lot of the English translations for Pro Wrestling Noah for the English wrestling fans. She just knows so much, and it was an awesome interview to talk with her. And I learned a lot of things about Misawa that I did not know. So it's a great episode.
That sounds amazing.
It's like a 2-hour episode just about Misawa from the time he was a child to the time of the time he left to form Noah and to his death. It's a great show. I can't wait for it to drop in October. Yeah.
Sunday, October 4th, that one will drop. So a couple of weeks away, but definitely worth the wait. That's going to be an excellent episode, to check out. So, you can follow him, WH Park 9. That is the number 9 on Twitter. If you want to know any opinion, he's got it for you. So check out WH Park, and then monthly here with the Long and Winding Royal Road as well as post ProRes. So WH, thank you as always, and thank you to all of you for tuning in. Go to store.postwrestling.com, grab your t-shirt, and then make your picks. postwrestling.com/G1, deadline Friday night at midnight. Goodbye.